Greetings to everyone and welcome to another roundtable by the international community of Iranian academics. This is a very highly anticipated panel discussion organized by ICOIA and delves into the critical issue of alarming chemical attacks targeting schools for girls, particularly in Iran. We hope to shed light the latest progress and findings about these attacks from an independent team of courageous medical experts. A wave of terrifying chemical attacks that is specifically targeted the school for girls has occurred in Iran since November 2022 that intensified in early months of this year, 2023. These attacks happened in over 91 schools across Iran and leaving thousands of students and their families distressed with symptoms that related to some kind of chemical agents. These attacks have sent shockwaves through Iranian society. Despite the gravity of these attacks, the Islamic Republic has brushed off symptoms as mere stress and psychological disturbances. In fact, they refused or underestimated any form of investigation into these attacks based on objective evidence. These statements evoked widespread outrage among the Iranians inside Iran and in diaspora. In March 2023, over 300 professors condemned the attacks. In June 2023, at least 11 professors from the University of Science and Technology in Tehran have been summoned for raising concerns about the student poisoning. It is my honor to be the moderator for this panel discussion, to have our panel speakers and every one of you joining us. Over the course of the next 90 minutes, we will be privileged to hear from esteemed professionals who have been at the forefront of investigating and analyzing these incidents. Our esteemed speakers will provide invaluable insights and perspectives, contributing to a comprehensive understanding of the situation at hand. To commence our discussions, we have the privilege of hearing from Dr. Sohaila Anzali, who will present on the work undertaken by their dedicated team in studying and uncovering truth behind these attacks. Dr. Sahar will follow by sharing some insights of their finding and provide a solid foundation for our subsequent discussion. Following Dr. Sahar Asghari's discussions and presentation, we will have Dr. Piruz and Dr. Kiana Kassiri, who will bring their unique expertise and insights on details related to this project. As we investigate through their enlightened presentation, we encourage active participation from the audience. During the sessions, please feel free to share your questions and comments in the chat box. We will dedicate a substantial portion of our time, approximately 40 minutes, to address your queries and engage in a stimulating question and answer session. In my role as the moderator, I will be collating questions from the chat box and posing them to the speakers, ensuring that we have a well-structured and insightful conversation. Our aim is to foster an environment of academic rigor and exchange of ideas as we collectively strive to unravel the intricacies of this grave situation. Once again, we extend our gratitude to all participants for their presence today, and your engagement is crucial in advancing our understanding of the attack. Thank you very much, and let us now commence this momentous panel discussion. Dr. Sohaila, the floor is yours. Thank you.
So many thanks for the invitation today. I hope we can give you an overview of today's horrible serial attacks of Iranian schools. So my name is Sohaila Anzali. I am a pharmaceutical scientist and owner of a very small company in Germany. So I belong to the International Iranian Physician and Healthcare Providers called IFA. And this is the slide you can see. And the group of health professionals based in Germany called PASIMED. So, but today, as the spokesperson of our group, our team, with the name Investigation Alliance of Chemical Attacks in Iran, I would like to represent our team, which is made up of various organizations, groups, and associations around the world. So we are primarily doctors in our team, pharmacists, chemists, biologists, IT experts, and also we have some group who are political activists. So we didn't know each other before. Due to the urgent situation in Iran, we got together very quickly, formed a team, and defined our goals and rules, and started working. So we have been working together for closely, so 2 months, I guess, more than 2 months. It's important that we have formed an alliance of different groups together with the members of Iran, and so to have direct contact with school children and their parents in Iran, and to achieve our goal efficiently and without any bias. We can see on the slide the logos of associated groups. So we have members, we are 80 members. 5 of 18 belong to the IFA association. We have a Parsimet in Germany, and then 2 colleagues from the Mahsa Medical Association. This is also a health service abroad, also based on the US. We have volunteer doctors of Kurdistan, wherever medical help is needed in Kurdistan. We have Ref Group from Iran, who's supporting Iranian protesters. We are Iranian students. I guess pronunciation is wise. So Sahar will explain a little bit more about that. This is the objective to alert the international community to the situation of Iranian students. So we have Action for Iran from US, All for Iran from Canada, with a mission to support the people in Iran and promote the Alliance Path, Women Life Freedom Movement. We have Alliance Path for Iran, API in Canada, from Canada, and Technologies for Justice, also US-based, as an initiative to accelerate the development of processes and applications to improve the justice in human rights. So that's also very interesting. And we have, last but not least, 2 independent members, 2 scientists, an excellent chemist, and an excellent biologist in our team. We have not only a diversity of places and groups, but also a diversity of experts with different educational backgrounds, so who together can create a real picture. This means that our experts compensate for the whole scientific project we have defined and avoid any kind of duplication or triplication in the group. So we now can concrete, we have a work plan together, but no results can be presented yet. So when we receive the samples that we have selected based on the students' reports, we will test and analyze them, and then we could finally give an answer as to whether and when, at least during a period of time of these all attacks, a representative of the category of nerve agents was used. So this is my last sentence, and I would now like to give the floor to my colleagues. Sahar, please.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would really like to thank our friends from ICOIA for giving us the opportunity today to discuss the tragic events that are occurring in Iran right now, and in particular, the tragic serial chemical poisonings in schools. It is of the utmost importance to raise awareness around this issue, and I hope that we are contributing in the smallest way today. I will, of course, hand over to my much more experienced co-panelists to discuss the clinical symptoms of these exposures and to discuss our ongoing laboratory work on identifying plausible candidates. But I will first try to provide a certain data-driven context, starting with an assessment of these incidents and their various characteristics that we have gathered within our online and public database. So first of all, I would like to say that by recording data on these serial chemical poisonings, we seek to analyze the distribution of incidents in terms of temporal distributions, in terms of geographical distribution, but also in terms of gendered distribution, as we know that schools are gender segregated in Iran. And we do that, why? To obtain an overview of the incidents, an overview of the trends, and potentially to extract particular patterns. But before diving into the specifics of the data, I would like to clarify the way of obtention and gathering of those data. So multiple groups and associations of the Iranian diaspora, at first very independently, and then all together within this working group of Investigation Alliance for Chemical Attacks in Iran, made an effort to monitor and gather evidence regarding the abuses of the Islamic regime upon its student community. And these are the data that I'm going to discuss with you today. As a disclaimer, I would just like to say that we are not journalists. We do not have a journalistic expertise, nor from us, or most of us, do we have the logistical possibility to fact check every one of the information that we find, as we are mostly, as Sohaila said, outside of the country. However, and in order to collect and further share only reliable information, we have implemented an information curation system. So how do we do that? First of all, we only base our inventory on data and information that are shared by reliable and by serious media, such as Iran International, Hengov, 1500 Tasvir, Iran Wire, and such. Secondly, we focus mainly on information that are supported by images, or even better, videos, which in most of the case allow us to directly ascertain the veracity of certain characteristics of the reported chemical poisonings. For example, the name of the school may be visible in the images or videos. We can then extract the city and by extension, the province. And finally, we only record incidents of chemical poisonings for which we have reliable information on the name of school, the town where the poisoning happened, by extension, the province, and in most cases, we try to have the information of the type of school, meaning is it a girls' school or a boys' school? And by doing that, by going through those different levels of curation, we seek to comprehensively gather data that may further be exploitable, like in data analysis and statistical analysis. So, based on the latter data that we gather in our up-to-date shared public and online database, we have recorded 854 chemical attacks in school in Iran. As far as the number of victims is concerned, it is difficult, very difficult to give a precise figure, but it is fair to say that many media reported more than 1,200 victims of this chemical poisoning since the beginning. As you can see in this timetable, the first incident of gas attack was reported on November 30, 2022, in the Noor Yazdan Shahr Girls' School in the city of Qom. And since then, chemical attacks have multiplied almost every school day, with the climax of horror reached on March 5, 2023, where 255 schools were reportedly targeted across the country, according for a big part of those incidents. Also, a few people assumed that the serial poisonings would end after the Persian New Year holiday break in the beginning of March. They picked up again with at least 289 incidents, representing almost 30% of all incidents. As I said in the beginning, schools being gender segregated in Iran, girls' schools are predominantly affected. accounting for about 83% of the school poisoning incidents, as opposed to 5.5% of the boys' school incidents. The remaining percentage is still under investigation, but it is for the moment unknown. And it is important to say that the reported incidents of chemical poisonings affected all types of establishments in Iran. So it was ranging from primary school to middle schools, high schools, even some universities, and also few student dormitories. Regarding the geographical distribution of those events, it is fair to say that the attacks are absolutely systemic, and they do affect all of the 31 provinces of Iran. The most provinces being Tehran, which accounts for 15% of the reported chemical poisonings, and Khuzestan, which accounts for 8.5%. We can also look at the least affected provinces, which are South Khorasan, 0.5%, North Khorasan, 0.5%, and Markazi, accounting for 0.4% of all the chemical poisonings. If we look at the cities, the most affected towns are Tehran, accounting for nearly 10% of the chemical poisonings reported, Ardabil, 4.1%, Karaj, 3.9%, and Qom, which was also the first city targeted, accounting for 3.7% of all chemical poisoning incidents. And it is important also to note that several schools were targeted more than once during all the chemical poisoning incidents. It is the case, for example, for the Meraj girls' school in Saqez in Kurdistan, and the Shahid Sadr girls' school in Karaj, Alborz. The thing is that even based on all of those data, it is still quite difficult to identify a pattern of attacks on schools in the context of the Women's Life Freedom movement. Student protests after the death of Mahsa Jina Amini were utterly systemic and ignited the fuse of revolt in schools across the whole country. And very unfortunately, the same goes for chemical attacks, making it quite difficult to extract a correlation between those two. However, it is fair to say that very early in the Women's Life Freedom uprising and the involvement of the young generation in the protests, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei warned the young generation about their actions, and announced that the latter may be punished. Thus, it seems plausible, at least, to say that these chemical attacks may be a revenge against the brave young generation who shook the society, but of course, further investigation are necessary. And as a transition to the next panelist, I would like to say that the Ministry of Intelligence of the Islamic Republic clarified their position through a statement issued on April 28, 2023, which combines a lack of clear answers regarding the alleged investigations on those chemical attacks, along with anti-Western propaganda. But what is very interesting is that they claim that these poisoning are perpetrated by the students themselves, that the mobile is skipping school and skipping exams, that most clinical symptoms are due to mass hysteria, and that the gas of use is nothing else than pepper spray. I will let, of course, my co-panelists dive into the specifics of these subjects and clarify them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aghakhani. Sorry, I misspelled your surname, Sahar. Thank you. Now, we have Dr. Pirous, who are going to talk to us a little bit about the chemical components and the plausibilities of some of these chemical components used in this attack. Dr. Pirous, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for the introduction, and I thank you for the brief introduction to the problem of poisoning children at a school. So I will try to explain how I got involved into this situation, I would say. Long ago in February, somebody actually called me and said that, hey, there are lots of, let's say, attacks to children at schools, and people are saying different things about the nature of this chemical that is being used to target children. So they asked me if I can identify what is the chemical that is being used for this purpose. To be honest, the best way to identify a chemical is to have it, take it to the lab, and then analyze it properly to identify the chemical structure. But unfortunately, we don't have any direct, let's say, evidence of these kind of materials that are being used in Iran. So we have to investigate it in a way that, as if we are trying to solve a puzzle. So we have to gather all these pieces, put them together, and make a bigger picture to identify the chemical. So the first act that I, at that time, had to take was to check the symptoms of these materials. So I looked into the, let's say, social media, because I wanted to have first-hand evidence from those people which are involved. And children were describing all those symptoms that they experienced. They were explaining about, let's say, the nature of this gas that they had encountered. Some of these were quite interesting. So, for example, the most important part that one of my colleagues will later explain was that people were saying, these students were saying, that after being attacked by this chemical, they could not walk, they could not feel their body, they could not feel their legs or stuff like that. And then they were also trying to somehow explain how this chemical was smelling like. So they were trying to actually find something, because usually these chemicals are difficult to explain because this is a kind of smell that you have never experienced before. But they were trying to find something that resembles the smell of this chemical. And they were saying that, hey, it was smelling like rotten orange. It was smelling like rotten mandarin. And, you know, these were things that were going on at that time. I started my investigation by finding all those kind of chemicals that can have these kind of effects, these symptoms in body, and then at the same time smell like orange or mandarin or things like that. So after a lot of effort, putting so many things together, I finally came up with a terrifying hypothesis. The hypothesis was that the kind of material that is being used in Iran is closely related to organophosphates. In particular, is closely related to, let's say, agents, chemical agents like actually soman or taboon or things like that. So it was a let's say, shocking experience. At the beginning, I could not imagine that. I thought that maybe some psychopaths are actually taking some chemicals, some sort of poisons, some pesticides, basically, and then are attacking to children in the schools. But, you know, it wasn't the case, because there is no pesticide that smells like orange and has the same kind of symptoms that children were actually describing. So this is the next act that we had to, plan for, was to gather some samples from Iran and then analyze these samples as soon as possible. Because usually these organophosphates are not stable for long. They are volatile. So, you know, we cannot really have them firsthand at lab. So at that time, we actually started the act. We started explaining how to gather these samples. And here in this poster, actually, you can see. So we told to children that, hey, you can actually gather your I don't know, cloth, put them in a Ziploc bag, and then put that Ziploc bag in another Ziploc bag, and then send it to us. Maybe we can identify what is going on. And this was exactly what people did. So people were scared, they were desperate, and they wanted to know what is going on. We received the first samples something about 2 months ago, maybe a bit more, but it took for samples were in the post for over 2 weeks, and we only found a trace amount of the chemical that was used on the textile. The amount of the chemical on the textile was so low that we could not identify exactly the nature, but we could identify basically part of this structure by means of mass spectroscopy. So the most striking part of the, let's say, structure was a mass corresponding to 99. And this mass 99 is actually related to fluoromethyl phosphate, which is a crucial part in this kind of, let's say, organophosphate nerve agents. So here I should specify these are nerve agents. They are not pesticides. They are not related to, let's say, ordinary kind of poisons. What we're doing at the moment is that for the moment, because schools are closed, there's no more attack. So we cannot actually gather these kind of textiles. So that's why we announced another, let's say, request and ask people to send us some hair samples. And yeah, here you can see actually this is a poster that my colleagues actually made, and it is shared on social media explaining how they can gather these hair samples. So we're hoping that we receive some of these hair samples, and then there are several labs which are hopefully going to cooperate with each other and then identify what is inside. And it is actually good that chemicals that are inhaled by these students will be locked inside keratin in hair structure. So this is actually identifiable up to 5 years after the incident if hair are not chemically treated. So for example, if they do not dye their hair, if they do not use some other, let's say, chemicals to treat their hair and stuff like that. Culturally, it is very unlikely that children, I mean, school children do these kind of things to their hair in Iran. So we hope that we can find and identify the exact chemical in their, that was used against these school children. I think that's all for me. So I give my place to the next colleague, and they will explain more.
Thank you, Dr. Pires. It was very insightful. Thank you. Dr. Kiana Kassiri, lovely to have you with us. Thank you very much for joining us. And would you like to tell us also a little bit about the symptoms of these issues and your part of the project? Thank you. You're on mute. Sorry. Dr. Kassiri, you're on mute.
I'm so sorry. I received a phone a call on my phone, so that was the reason I have to just turn it off. Thank you very much for inviting us to this panel. It's really lovely to be here. And before I start, I have to apologize for my language because actually my second language after Farsi is Norwegian. So I try my best to speak English as best as I can. So if I use like Norwegian words suddenly in middle of my speech, so please apologize on behalf. My colleagues before, they explained that what was the reason that the group starts to investigate these serial chemical attacks in the students. So I myself, as a doctor, was more focused on the symptoms of the girls, or the students, and what can be. And of course, the students, the parents, especially, they were worried about the complication, the consequence, and what's going to be the clinical symptoms. Are they going to have serial or serious effect on the body because of this? So we were more specifically focused at which symptoms the girls had. And then we try to study more about that. Okay, if it's saron, what is going to be, the different nerve agents which was finding. I'm just going 2 steps back, and I think that it's important to know the physiology of the body, that how these nerve agents, how they affect their body. We have acetylcholine or acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is a nerve transmitter, which you can find it in the synapses of the nerves. This is a transmitter, neurotransmitter, which is calling for alerting or waking up of the body. This is the neurotransmitter which you're using when you want to have the fight and flight. Then when the sympathicus activity is on, so then you have lots of acetylcholine in your body, in the synapses. But when the parasympathicus, when you want to relax, then you have to have the parasympathicus. It's going to be active, and then it's coming another enzyme, which is calling for acetylcholinesterase. This enzyme breaking down the acetylcholine, and then the nerves, they're not going to send the signals through the nerves. The nerve agents, all the gases which my colleagues, they have talked about, this is not my fault. I have to say that this is not my table, as you can see. But the thing is, when the nerve agent is coming to your body, either through the skins or through the inhalation, the things which is happening, that they're going to inhibit the acetylcholinesterase, the enzyme. So it means that you're not going to breaking down the acetylcholine. So it means that the whole body is bombarding with lots of nerve signals and signals and impulses. So of course it affects the whole body, all the organs, the heart, the lung, the blood vessels, the intestine area, everything. That's the reason that if you don't give the first aid and the medical helps, which the student or the person who has been now it's coming the Norwegian word in my head, but who has been in contact with this nerve agent can have the problem. So you can see, now you have you can see here that the most dangerous part is because of this nerve agent, the person is getting, the heart rate is going faster and faster. This is typical fight and flight reaction. You are not going to have any control on your respiratory parts. So at the end, you can get the respiration stop. And everything is, and they're fainting, and the death is going to be the end result if the person doesn't receive the medical help which needs. So this is, if you want to look at the symptoms, for example, which has been reported by the students, which we have gathering from the students itself, you can see that lots of the symptoms is very similar to the symptoms which you can see here. They have reported mainly about the nausea and vomiting, about dizziness and imbalances, about headache, shortness of breath, numbness, cough, abdominal pain, eye irritation, upper or lower limb weakness. They have also reported about weakness, muscle pain. They have talked about, finger pallor or sinus, muscle, again, weakness, panic and nervousness, epigastric pain and irritation, sore throat, chest pain, and eye pain. These are the symptoms which the students has reported to us, and we have gathered. So I think it's, I have given the most important part of the results of nerve agent, the symptoms which you can receive if you have been in contact with the nerve agents, and the symptoms which the girls or the students, actually, not the girls. It hasn't been just the girls, because we have also boys schools who has been attacked. So this is my part till here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your information and for your insights. Now, I know we will have a lot of questions, but I want to start by asking you all the panel members, if you could comment on a couple of things. So Dr. Pirous mentioned the issues that you have had in order to collecting samples, particularly bringing samples and make sure that this chemical kind of stays in the fabric or the material and textile when you bring it to the investigation. Now, is there any other challenges that you can see in the process of investigation? Like, have you seen any particular problem from blocking information from the valuable or credible institutions in Iran? Is there any other challenges that you have seen in the process of investigation? Sahar, would you like to start?
I think Dr. Pirous would be more adapted because he is the one handling the sampling. Thank you.
Pirous, would you like to start? Good.
Okay, hi again. So, all right, the most important part would be, this is about the logistics, because people in Iran should gather these samples for us. And then it is always difficult to find resources which are reliable, because somebody comes forward and says that, okay, I have some sample, I have, let's say, hair sample for you, and then how can I give it to you? We should meet somewhere and give you, let's say, these kind of samples. You should build up a trusted network inside the country in order to identify if the person is exactly the same person who they are claiming. And then there is always this risk that those who are gathering these samples get caught by the, let's say, intelligence service or by IRGC intelligence, and it won't be really nice if they get them, because according to them, these people are basically, let's say, foreign agents, and these people are working for, I don't know, some other countries, for hostile countries and stuff like that. So all these stupid things that are told about it, because the government is completely denying the fact that children were poisoned. Some of my colleagues actually told it to you, but I will tell you something more. At the beginning, they said that, okay, there is no poisoning, but then after a while, they had to admit that there is something going on. But then, there were lots of totally ridiculous explanations. So, for example, some people came forward and said that, all right, some officials said that the poison that is being used against children is nitrogen, N2. So this is completely meaningless, because like almost 80% of the air is made of nitrogen. So how is it even possible that you suffocate somebody or poison somebody by nitrogen? Or there were some other ridiculous explanations like that. In the latest, let's say, announcements, which happened about a week ago, I guess, they said that, yeah, there were some people were actually attacking the schools, and they used some chemicals. But it is just some people use some chemicals and some schools. So who, what, and which schools exactly? There's no clear explanation. So the biggest problem is the logistics. Finding people which are actually willing to share these samples, it's difficult, because on the other hand, families are worried too. Somebody approaches them and says that, hey, give us some sample of your children's dress, or I don't know, your children's hair. And then they feel insecure because they cannot trust people like that. They can say that, okay, who is this person coming forward asking for these kind of samples? Because then they can be in trouble as well. They can be accused of working with foreign agents or whomever. So this is the main problem. The main problem is the logistics. And then there is also another problem that so far it wasn't that much important, because the number of samples that we received were not that much. But it is about financing. So far, just one person have been paying for everything, for the, let's say, transportation, for, the cost of analysis and stuff like that, because these kind of analysis isn't something that you do it for free. So this is another problem. And now that we are actually trying to expand these kind of experiments, we want to have more samples, we want to perform some more accurate analysis. It will be costly, so it will be like a few thousand US dollar, if I want to say, and it's a little bit difficult to pay for that. So these are the problems that we are dealing with.
Only few, and this is also in addition to all the hiding that the Islamic Republic is doing, the lies, the forging statements, forging reports. Right. But yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Kasseri. I wanted to get back to one of the points that you made about the symptoms and that the families were very worried about the continuation or the long-term impact of these symptoms. Now, my question is that if proven and if we can actually talk about what particular agent that was, is there any kind of insight you could give us about what would be the long-term implications of these exposures to the gas? And if so, how could they address these questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Nagarjun. Me and my colleague, one of my colleagues, Shahriar, who is not here, I have a book which we have tried to read about different agents. And till now, the things which we have about the carcinogenicity, which about like if it's going to be cause cancer, for example, in the body, we have it says that the Department of Health and Human Services and the International Agency for Research on Cancer haven't classified sarin or let me see. I have it exactly here. That taboon, for example, sarin or suman or even VX as to the carcinogenicity to the humans. So limited data and in animals indicates that nerve agents are not likely to be carcinogenic. So it's very little information because nerve agents is not used every day for in huge or in big amounts for a big population, like it says like this. So all these, and it has been used in warfare purpose. So the people who has been exposed for nerve agents in the war, for example, in Iran, in Iraq, in Syria, and so there hasn't been a very systematically research about the consequences, but till now they can't see that it can cause cancer. If I want to say that in very simple sentence, they haven't seen it. If it comes later, it's up to the researchers, but till now they cannot find any reason to see that it can make cancer. And for chronic exposure, it's also very little information available regarding prolonged exposures to low levels of the nerve agents. Of course, it depends that how much, I have to emphasize that how much nerve agent have you been exposed for, in how long it says a lot that how the complication will be. All the chronic symptoms, the prolonged symptoms, depends that how much nerve agent have you been exposed for how long. So even in the students, we were talking about this is what has been discussed also in our group, that the students who has been hospitalized and end up in the intensive, for example, care. So of course, that shows that they have been maybe exposed for higher amount for longer period, or because of their background, like if they have, for example, asthma or some other symptom, so of course the complication in the body is more severe than the other who has been totally healthy. So you can say that if you want to say to the students and their parents that, okay, if they haven't been hospitalized, for example, that's good sign. But if they have been hospitalized and they ended up in the intensive care, as we had some reports that the girls had gone there with very prolonged symptoms for a long time, with weakness in their body. So of course, we are more worried for them than for those who has not been hospitalized at all. You know? And one thing which is very important to remember, that these symptoms can take almost weeks, until 6 weeks after you have been exposed for nerve agent. There is one thing which comes, but not because of nerve agent, but because of the second effect of the nerve agents later. It's the polyneuropathy, which we have seen in the nerves. This is not directly because of the nerve agents, but because of the complication which affect the nerves itself. So polyneuropathy has been, that's the only one which has been seen as a complication till now. Again, I have to say till now because they're researching and the research is very limited till now.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your insight. Dr. Panta Razayan, I can see you joining us. Thank you very much. Would you like to comment on any of the aspects you have heard?
Hello, everybody. First of all, I just want to thank you to all of the lecturer for the great and very important panel about something so I would say ambiguous in this crisis of the health related in the school in Iran. And I'm from IFA, and I have a quick question. We know that there is some short-term and long-term effects of the nerve agent, but what we also know, all of those trauma or some of those events can cause PTSD in the kids, especially in the young kids. So I was wondering is there any way that we can have some more information about the PTSD in those kids or gathering some data, and it might be just, shedding more light on what exactly doing to our kids and to our children in Iran, just because of those radical maneuver or radical events. Thank you so much, and really appreciate for your time.
Thank you for your question. Any of our panel members would like to respond?
Can I comment on this topic?
Sure,
just briefly? Yeah. Studying things like PTSD needs firsthand, let's say, access to people. You should sit and talk to them one by one. You should hear their stories, and then you should analyze their let's say, behavior, everything like that. But it is not possible at the moment. I'm telling you that we cannot even get hair samples. We cannot actually find people which are willing to share their stories with us. And then analyzing such a huge topic, studying such a thing like PTSD in school children, it needs an extensive study. It needs, an access, almost a huge access to these people. You should sit with them. And I would say that it is almost impossible to do that, because I'm not a psychologist, but I'm just thinking in terms of the let's say, logistics of doing such a thing. How is it even possible to do that? How can you actually study such an effect on children without meeting them?
But maybe a very important project to undertake for later on.
Oh, sure. I have a very kind of similar experience with another issue related to some psychological issues in Iran. Well, recently something else happened, and I got involved in something related to. I don't want to really comment about what, because for some reasons I prefer to remain silent about the exact nature of the event that I was involved in. But the problem was that people are not open to share their experiences about these kind of things.
Yeah,
so I would say it's very difficult. Sorry for disappointing you.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We're all about hope and kind of encouragement. So that's great. Thank you very much for your comment.
You're most welcome.
Dr. Kenna, I have a question on the chat box, and I was wondering if you could comment, because it's kind of continuing our discussion about that we don't have sufficient data, but is there any connection, or do we know anything developed with other diseases such as MS, multiple sclerosis, or any other nerve damages or diseases that we know of? Do we have any evidence of those? No.
No. Sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you. It's actually might be very helpful for people to know that. Now, Sahar, I wanted to ask you a question about, have you seen any other project like this around the world? Like, what methods to use? You don't need to tell us all the details, but I just wondered about, so how would you like to tell us a little bit about the bioinformative part of it, and what methods do you use?
Regarding the data gathering?
Yes.
And the data processing? Yes. So as I was saying at the beginning, a lot of association groups of the Iranian diaspora started to work independently on gathering the data. So they all had, for example, We Are Iranian Students started on its own part. I know that the Iranian Justice Collective started doing the same. IFA started gathering those events at the beginning independently as well. And then when we got all together during this, within this working group on the chemical attacks in Iran, we decided to share our data and to cross-check everything. What happened is that everyone has different curation systems to include or not information within their database. And so we had to discuss every choices. We are still actually in the process of discussing all of the different groups curation system and the choices that they made to involve or not involve in information within their databases. So at the end of this process, we aim to have a single database, a shared database between all of the different member groups that Sohaila John presented at the beginning, which will share all of the different creation process that all of these different groups have, and give the best possible, of course, because even if we try our best, there are still biases. We are not in Iran, we cannot fact check everything, and we are not journalists to have the logistics nor the expertise to do so, but we aim to have the best possible database that will gather reliable only information that are sourced, that are verified as much as we can, and to share this only this one and only sole database online, and to maybe use it to connect with other organizations, international organizations, to raise awareness about this specific data.
So just a short additional comment to that. This database will be really, we are going through all the schools and checking the coordinates of the school on the cities, so that we can avoid any kind of bias if the school name doesn't exist, or there are just we have also some reports, they came from the reliable sources, but in 2 or 3 days after, like the 9th April and 10th of April, which is very important days, we had several schools on different days. We have to check if we had 2 or 3 times attacks in the schools, or it's just a bias, and we have to remove and find the right dates. So there's a huge work on the data. So, but I think we will finish it next week, and maybe or next week we have a unique database that we can publish it anywhere. So for everybody is open. Thank you.
That is fantastic. And what a great news. Thank you, and kudos to your determination. Thank you. So I have a question, and one of our, we have a couple of questions on the panel. And I will have one question, and then we have Gitnet to ask this question. So my question is combined with our one of our audience's questions, who's asking about all this disappointment we see in the international community. Everybody knows, UNICEF knows what's happening, the UN knows what's happening, and these are all disappointing. None of the organization has done any kind of substantial efforts to stop these attacks, or even questioning the Islamic Republic for the attacks. Now, so the question on the panel is that, what do you think your research will bring forward? But I would like to complement this question with my question about how do you think other organizations like academic organizations, civil society groups, or wider international community civil society groups could actually do to help everybody, including your project, so we can actually get some substantial outcome of this project? Anybody? Soila, would you like to comment on this? And then Piruz and anybody else?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just this is really a very good question, because as Piruz also talked about, we have really we need resources. So if we could have the opportunity to get much more possibilities for the analysis on the labs, for example, or to talk about the topics we need to understand with the experts from the universities, and we can say, hey, we have a problem, we have 50 samples right now, and we have to divide it in 2 or 3 labs to test it. And these are the questions we have, and in the next future we will solve it, of course. We will have interaction with more institutes, organizations, and universities, I hope. And this is something which we need always, so to have an interaction with scientists and diverse universities. So the first part was the question, was it Negajan? What was it, the first part of your question?
What you're hoping to achieve. What you're hoping to
achieve. We hope. We have complete results after our testing and lab. We get a review of all the data we summarized, collected, analyzed. I hope we will find out what we right now we think about that is true. Maybe having a nerve agents in a period of the time on the attacking on the schools. If we could get the results, we will have a huge review, and we will, of course, ask United Nations. We will ask all the organizations like OPCW. We will report and try to get some answer from the organization what they want to do now, because all the institutes need some evidence or valid results. And we are trying to manage that in that form that we can use it and ask to finally to see if it's really the case of the regime in Iran, what we are talking about, because it is also, we cannot say that right now. But afterwards, it would be easier to say, okay, the terror attacks on the schools is something like a human rights. So we should do something against, not only in words, but doing something. So that's the aim or the goal we have in the future. So just shortly.
Thank you, Soila. We have another question. So Gitnet, could I ask you to ask your questions?
Okay. Thank you giving this chance. I actually interacting with Mona. She was interested in like a research which I am interested on. She commented on my will, and I just come up with this conversation. So thank you for very much. So my question is here. You know, why specifically this Gaza attack is targeting school children rather than other community settings? And also, the other question that I have is why the government is attacking his own nations, and why your research is narrowing down, you know, the possibility of attackers. There may be other who probably attack Iranians. So why you narrow down and conclude your research before you do the research that the government is attacking the school children? So and also mostly you are from the diaspora. So what the Iranian scientists based in Iran did in this area, and what they did find? So this is my question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Piers, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I'd like to add some points about that. Okay, so first I start from the last question. Iranians inside the country cannot get involved in these kind of issues for several reasons. First of all, again, the issue of logistics, whom I can trust. Yeah. So they cannot trust others. They cannot find the resources, and they cannot perform the analysis, because this sort of analysis should be performed only in certain type of labs with certain type of, let's say, machinery. So unfortunately, it is not available all around the country. So this is very difficult. I had once a conversation with one of my colleagues in Iran, and he told me that they received a sample, you know, and then I asked, okay, what did you do? They said that everybody was so terrified that they just disposed it. And I was like, you're quite crazy. So they had no idea. I said that, all right, you could analyze it. You could give me the results, and I would publish it, you know, outside the country. There's no need that you go there. That you can always go through a proxy, but they are too afraid to do that. So this is about the last question. The other question was that, correct me if I'm wrong, if we are sure that it is the government which is doing that, and why they are targeting people, right? Because I'm very forgetful.
Yes, that's correct.
So,
that's correct.
Okay. So I'll tell you about these two things. How we know that it is government doing this? There are, of course, I don't know what they are doing. I am not in their think tanks. I have no connection with them. But there are some evidence that shows that they are involved. And what are those evidences? So first, they say that there is no such attack. Nobody has done anything, you know. So they first deny. If they weren't involved, they would definitely investigate the issue. And the second thing is that actually, this is, as one of my colleagues, Sahar, actually showed at the beginning, these attacks have been conducted all around the country, you know, in all cities, in all provinces. Who else except the government has logistics to do that? But why they are doing that? I will give you actually an anecdote. Just listen to this and try to answer my question. Okay. The question is like that. A woman loses her mother. So her mother dies. And then she meets a very attractive man in the funeral. And she had no idea who is this man. The next week, she kills her sister. Why? give me some answer. Just think about why.
Her sister was married to that rich or attractive man?
No, it is not. No.
The attractive man will come again to that funeral, and then she can meet him. So maybe.
Yeah, just answer one of my questions. Before I answer the correct thing. Have you heard this story before, or you came up with the conclusion that this is the right answer? This is actually the right answer, but how did you know about it?
Honestly, I heard that before.
Okay, you heard that before. Okay, that's good. Yeah. That is good. That is good, because those people who can answer this question are psychopaths.
No, I can assure you I'm not. I can assure you I'm not.
Okay, very good, very good. I'm pleased and relieved. So the thing is that only people who can, give this answer, those are psychopaths. And
oh, sorry, Piruz, we can't hear your voice. Sorry, his audio was cut off, and I think it just went offline.
Do you hear me?
Oh, sorry, I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay, sorry, I had a problem. So, the problem is that I think like the government, because they have their own ideology and they have their own with logic. So whatever they are doing in the country is against logic. And I'm not familiar with that. I'm not saying that they are psychopaths, but they could be.
Thank you, Piruz. Also, there is Islamic Republic really claims that their intelligence is completely bulletproof, and there is no way they have control over all the borders and all the agents, everything that comes in. So from one side, the Islamic Republic kind of announces that they have full control, and then you have attacks over 800 students in such a great extent, and it either shows that the Islamic Republic has a very, very problematic intelligence service and is not capable of leadership of a country, or it means that they are doing it, and because they insist they are. So there are quite a lot of anecdotal evidence that they are doing it. Sorry, I have two people raising hands, and we have 10 minutes to close down the event. So Panta, would you like to ask your question, and then I will have Kiana talking. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to comment on the previous question, the last question. So the question was why the government of Iran going to attack the mostly girl student in the in the high school or in the elementary, and number one, we don't know, we do not have the evidence, but we have some clue that it could be from government. One, it was exactly what you mentioned. They can find very small little things if somebody saying something against the government, but all of those things happen in all different provinces of Iran, and nobody going to even catch any person. Okay, number one. Number two, what the first lady of Iran just said in the Venezuela in the interview. I'm just reading quote unquote from the one of the website. She said, and she's the one that claimed to be a PhD, and then she's saying that I'm the faculty of one of those universities. She said, "We want women to remain women. Why should we be like men? Why should we study, work, or live like a man? This is a form of violence." A person, she is the wife of the president of Iran, thinking like that, and she is claiming that she is a PhD and she is teaching in the university. It means that they do not want the women to go to school. And then it does explain if somebody hates the girls to go to school and learn. So it just, if you put those kind of a small piece of a puzzle, now we can see a bigger picture. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Panta. That's absolutely correct. Thank you very much. Now, Kiana and Sahar, please. Thank you.
Of course. About the last question, which the dear guest had, that why the government hadn't done anything. I want to say that actually the government set up a committee to investigate these attacks. But when the result came, it was not that committee who answered or who came with the report to the society. It was actually the intelligence service who came and claimed that they didn't find anything. This is number one. It's very unusual that the committee itself doesn't come out with the answer or the report about what they have found out. This is number one. Number two, why the girls' school? Look at Afghanistan, look at the Taliban. When they wanted to fear the girls not to go to school, what they did exactly the same thing. We are talking about PTSD, about the fear, about to be scared to go to school. What to do? Exactly to scare them to go to school. They attack them, either if it's nerve agent or other gas or nothing, just making them too afraid. So it helped actually, this makes them to come to the aim, which, or the goal that the parents, they are afraid to send the girls to the school. That's exactly what's the reason that they purposely attacked the school girls.
Thank you very much, Candace. Sahar, would you like to comment on this?
Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to add a small point to the question of GetNet, sorry. It is important to not forget the timeline of the events. This chemical poisoning incidents happened roughly around the same time or just after the major protest movements in Iran, who affected everyone, not only the students, but teachers, medical doctors, everyone. And it can also be a way for the government to change the subject, to change the point of view. It happened during the Iran-Iraq war, when the government had just taken over the country and got bogged down in an endless war, so that the people will turn a blind eye on all of the reforms that they were perpetuating and that they were pushing through. So those events of chemical poisoning in Iran can also be a way to turn the people's concern far from the revolution, far from the uprisings, and just focus on someone else, which is, of course, the tragic events happening on students and who touch everyone, because everyone knows student is a parent, has a sister, has a brother, and it can be a way to just turn the people point of view around.
Thank you. Yeah, it is painful to hear this story.
Sure.
Yes, it is very painful. Thank you very much. Thank you for your participation. On that note, I want to thank you, everyone, for participating, for joining us. I know our panel speakers are very busy, doctors and pharmacologists, and very busy with other projects as well. So I want to extend my gratitude to all of you. At the conclusion of this really illuminating panel discussion, I, on behalf of ICOIA, the International Community of Iranian Academics, would like to express our deepest gratitude to your distinguished panelists for your insights and contribution and dedication to shed light on the attacks targeting schoolgirls in Iran. Your expertise and commitments have been instrumental in deepening our understanding of this critical issue. So I'm very grateful to all of you. We would also like to extend our appreciation to the association and alliance for your participation and for supporting us in organizing this event. To continue supporting the valuable work of ICOIA and the alliance, we encourage all the participants to follow these associations on various social media platforms. By doing so, you can stay updated on our initiatives, research findings, and future events, and allowing for ongoing engagement and collaboration. Once again, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the panelists for sharing your insights and expertise And a special thanks also to Dr. Mona Parizadeh, who worked tirelessly to make sure that this panel discussion take place. Thank you all for participating in this session. It's only through our collaborative efforts and commitment to knowledge sharing that we can work towards a brighter future. Woman, life, freedom, and have a very wonderful time. Goodbye.